Now, joining us on the program right now is Alex Smith from America Rising PAC, AmericaRisingPAC.org. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Andrew. All we do is hit Democrats all day, so I'm glad I got quite the intro there.
Well, so that's what we're gonna discuss is this effort of yours that you and your PAC you want to get down with the Democrats on feeding the media, digging up some of the information on some of these Democrat candidates, finding out if they're hypocrites or do they have skeletons or sins in their own past. Talk about it.
So basically what we try to do at America Rising is we try to prevent what I like to call voters' remorse. So we don't want people to go out there, the good citizens of America, vote for all these guys, and then only to find out that they're actually, they have some kind of criminal activity in their past, they have some kind of civil issue. So what we do is we do opposition research. And what we're basically doing is taking everything that an ordinary citizen could find through Freedom of Information requests or, looking through the records in, county courthouses, for example, and we're putting them together in research books. And together, the team, we comb through these books, we develop these narratives about different candidates, and make sure that gets out there in the press so we can counterbalance the left's efforts against us.
It's amazing, and this is something and now it's catching up. Depending on where you want to start the timeline, you want to start with the alleged rape of Juanita Broaddrick by Bill Clinton in 1978, or you want to go to Monica Lewinsky in 1998. All of a sudden now, Bill Clinton seems dumbfounded by people who are asking him questions about his past. This should have been well known and in the press when he was running for president.
Absolutely. And you know what's funny is that the Clintons continue to haunt the Democratic Party today, especially because they don't have any kind of leader to fill that vacuum at the top after President Obama left office. So, Bill Clinton this week had an absolutely terrible week. If you watch some of his interviews throughout the week, they just kept getting worse. In terms of talking about what is now permissible to do against someone's consent. He just does not speak in the language of this century or of any kind of decorum throughout any time. And, he's really become an albatross around the necks of a lot of Democrats out there, I think, who were hoping for some kind of boost in this midterm election. There was a report out by The Hill earlier this week that said that President Obama is kind of on the sidelines for the midterms. We know that Bernie Sanders isn't sharing that very valuable email list with the DNC. And, Hillary, of course, is selling her email list to the DNC for top dollar. So there's really, you don't have a lot of surrogates out there, but Bill Clinton, has been seen sort of as like a rock star of the Democratic Party throughout the years. But now people, I think, are looking at what he's saying and they're saying, stay away from my campaign.
Well, what's amazing is Democrats. Look how long. Finally a film was made, and I'm shocked that there haven't been people hidden in dungeons in Hollywood for making the movie Chappaquiddick. But the media covered for Ted Kennedy, both in his philandering life and even the fact that he once attempted to work with the Russians to unseat Ronald Reagan. The media has gone out of its way to protect Democrats from their own scandals, by and large. Some of them become so big that they have no choice but to report on. But we can also see bias in media reporting is how long does that last in the news cycle? Republican scandals seem to go on forever, and Democrat scandals seem to be mentioned and then forgotten.
Well, that's why we do what we do at America Rising, is we're really pushing out the narratives that everyone would like us to forget. So a great example is our fair Senator Claire McCaskill in Missouri. This week, she really got tripped up after it was reported by the Free Beacon that she, during an RV tour of the state, so she could seem like more of the common folk. And of course, this is a state that President Trump won by double digits. So in terms of being a Democratic senator who's voted against his entire agenda, there's really fewer. There aren't as many Democratic senators out there that you could say are as endangered as Claire McCaskill is in the upcoming elections. And she, so she promotes this RV tour. She's going to travel the state. She's going to meet with voters like you, despite the fact that she's a multimillionaire. She's, she lives in the fanciest condos in D.C. And so she takes this RV tour, but then it's discovered after looking at flight patterns that she actually flew on her private jet for a segment of the of the RV tour. And who was there on the ground to capture footage of that of that private jet? America Rising tracker.
Nice.
So we're
Maybe
everywhere. We're always
she should get a beat up pickup truck like Scott Brown.
That's
I think he did it for real.
Yeah. I mean, and that's I think, it really speaks to what opposition research is in the age of, of new media and of voters becoming more and more informed through their own media sources and different media sources, is that people hate it. People hate politicians who are inauthentic. I think that was a huge reason why Hillary Clinton lost. I used to work with young voters. That was a huge reason in terms of what imperiled her with younger millennial types who hate people who are sort of fake and phony. And I think that that's true of all voters. So someone like Claire McCaskill, who claims to be one of us, but she's actually flying around in a private jet, and there's an America Rising camera there to capture, her flying around the state that she claims to represent. It doesn't really jive with people.
Well, here, look, I think if for conservatives, Republican voters, we're not against wealthy people running for office, right? We know that many of these people, Donald Trump was a very wealthy man, and that's not a problem. It only becomes a problem, when they pretend, when they want to pretend there's something that they're not, and they want to, act morally outraged by, let's say, income inequality, right? When you have Nancy Pelosi, whose husband is a very, very wealthy venture capitalist, we know that the Pelosi family's not going without. It's not like Nancy has to, work a second job folding laundry to make ends meet. But she reacts in horror at income inequality if you are the literal embodiment of it. It's like when you hear Democrats talking about the 1%. Well, if you're a multimillionaire senator, you are the 1%. So I think what voters need to know is how much, not just hypocrisy, but how much information there is that contradicts the themes of their campaigns, right? When they say the rich this and the rich that, well, the voters should know how rich that person is then.
That's exactly right. And I think that you have a great example in President Trump. I mean, this is a guy who literally flew around in an aircraft that bears his name on it.
Unapologetically, though.
Unapologetically. He did it. He did it in splendor. He landed the helicopter in the fields of Iowa. He put himself out there in a way that was totally unabashed to voters, right? But when you have people like you're saying, Nancy Pelosi, Claire McCaskill, who are sort of like feigning this common folk facade, and really sort of, really who are multimillionaires in their own right, and they're sort of hiding it and ashamed of it. That's what voters don't like.
I don't think they're ashamed of it. I think the Democrats, they don't have a problem with wealth. They have a problem with the wealth of people they don't like. And, back to the thing about Trump flying around in his Trump-branded airplane. He said, I'm a rich guy. This is my plane. Whatever. It's Al Gore who, when we talk about like some of these, who is this? There's another evangelical Jim Baker type who is asking for a third private jet. He needs a $54 million jet. And even most Christians are like, come on, give me a break here. Don't tell. It's like Al Gore saying, well, I need to fly around the world in a private jet so I could spread the message about how horrible carbon emissions are. Right, Al Gore. That makes perfect sense. In the age of video conferencing, you need a private jet because you need to spread the word about how bad carbon emissions are when you're the very embodiment of the use of those carbon emissions.
And don't forget about all the celebrities who do the very same. So, I think that it really does, it does show where voters are in terms of not liking that kind of behavior. And because of newer forms of media, you spoke about Chappaquiddick. That was a time in American history where there were just a few news networks, one news director who was saying what went on television, what went in the pages of the newspapers every day, and that was it. That's how you got your news. Now today there is just an endless supply of information sources, and I think people are really getting wise to the fact that there are different angles to stories, and sometimes the whole story isn't covered, and that they're seeking out this information on their own in order to inform themselves. And I think that's why groups like America Rising, in terms of opposition research, why we've been able to flourish in this new information age, because we have so many ways to get the information out there. Whereas before, if our work had landed on the desk of just a couple of news editors, it may have fallen to the floor of the of the clips.
The website is AmericaRisingPAC.org. Alex Smith is joining us. All right, before we wrap up here, who are you really looking to dig up dirt on? And when we say dig up dirt, we're not talking about. Well, I guess we are talking about if somebody is going to point the finger at a Republican who, look, and we don't support Republicans who are doing things that we don't approve of. But if they're doing things in their lives that are the opposite of how they portray themselves, you're just trying to tell the truth. You could call it digging up dirt if you want to, but who are you really looking at, and what is it you're looking for?
So right now, we are focused like a laser on the 2018 midterms. We're fully focused on making sure that we preserve our Republican majorities in the House and in the Senate. We're especially looking at the red state Democrats in the Senate. So these are Democrats who come from states that voted for President Trump. 5 of those states voted for President Trump by double digits. And so we're really looking at those states to make sure that voters know that, these senators are going to Washington, they're voting against the president's agenda, they have personal agendas of their own that voters might not know about, and we're making sure that the voters know what those agendas are. On the other hand, too, we are, one of the first groups out there to be tracking the 2020 candidates. So we're looking ahead 2 years from now, and there are so many people on the left who have expressed an interest in running, and they are leapfrogging each other to try to get more to the left of Bernie Sanders, for example, than you can imagine. So we are making sure that none of those statements goes unnoticed and that someone is watching.
All right, I got to leave it there. Alex Smith, the website is AmericaRisingPAC.org. Check it out. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Thanks so much. You too. All
right, 1-866-95 Patriot 957-2874. We are right. They are wrong. That's the end of the story. The arguments on this radio program cannot be broken. SiriusXM Patriot.
SiriusXM has a 24-hour channel dedicated to politics.
I'm Jennifer McClellan. Nice day for strolls at President.